Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here to give you a review today of one of the maybe more accessible and less expensive travel tripods that come in a carbon fiber design, and that is from Neewer. Neewer is very popularly on places like Amazon with a lot of different products that are a little bit more friendly in terms of their price point than what some of the more boutique brands offer. So this is the LiteTrip 35 carbon fiber travel tripod. It retails right now for about $215 US, but there is an instant $50 discount right now, so that puts it at about $165 US. Now, when you consider the fact that some of the carbon fiber travel tripods that I reviewed have been upwards of $600 US, that stands out as being a pretty remarkable value, being 3 to 4 times less than what those cost. So the question, of course, is this a tripod that is worth using? I'm going to dive through its various feature sets, give you some things that I like, some things that I don't like, and offer up a conclusion as to whether or not you should consider the Neewer LiteTrip 35 carbon fiber travel tripod for your own personal use. Let's dive in. So let's start by giving you a rundown of the specs here. This tripod weighs in at 2.5 pounds, that's 1,130 grams. So it still feels very lightweight. It's not the lightest one that I have reviewed. I've reviewed quite a number of these at this point. Not the lightest, but it does feel very, very lightweight while maintaining a nice balance of still feeling very sturdy. It can support up to a 22-pound or 10-kilogram payload, and so you can see in the opening sequence, this being my heaviest combination at the moment. I had no problem in supporting that in either horizontal or vertical shooting positions. Zero issues there. So for most people, in most situations, practically this is going to support whatever gear you throw on top of it. Now, when it's fully retracted position, it goes as small as 19 inches, that's 49 centimeters in its minimum length. It does utilize a Peak Design style wedge leg design rather than a circular leg design, and that does allow it to fold up very, very tight. It's only 2.2 inches or 5.5 centimeters in diameter, and so it does allow for a very narrow footprint when it's stored, which is the advantage of this design. And I've always found with at least the Peak Design ones, and I think it's true here as well, there's something about this design that does feel a little bit extra sturdy, and so I am partial to it. Now, if you use the included short center column, you can go down as low as 6.4 inches or 16.5 centimeters to get down low for doing macro or tabletop type work. Now, the included QR plate here, it is ARCA compatible, and it is also compatible with Peak Design products. And so it's pretty clear that they've been intentional about not only utilizing some of the design, I think, philosophies of Peak Design, but also ensuring some compatibility with things like a Peak Design capture clip for carrying your camera. And so I do appreciate that as a Peak Design user, that if I'm using their quick release plate, it is going to be compatible with some of the other products that I am using. The actual ball head itself is very nice in its design. It is fully removable and also replaceable. There's a nice bowl here to where you could implement other things as well. It also includes a number of accessories, even at being at a lower price point. So obviously it comes with this nice padded case for carrying everything. And inside there's actually also a pouch that has a zipper on it that allows you to store all of the extra accessories that come with it. So I've already mentioned the shorter center column that you can utilize for that. It also comes with a unique device here that can be used both as a grip, and I have used it for that just out of curiosity. And so a way to carry a camera, or for that matter, even to carry a phone that is, practical and helpful. But then also it is a phone holder that allows you with a lot of room to accommodate different sizes of phones. So it utilizes the 1/4-inch accessory port here in the center top of the tripod head, and so you can actually screw it down there and you can use it as a phone holder. For that matter, you could utilize one of the side. There's a total of 3 different expansion ports, and so if you wanted to also, maybe have a secondary recording of something, a main camera on top, secondary here, you could actually utilize that there for a different perspective. So it is a very handy little thing that is included there. And the other thing that is included is also really unique, something that I've actually not seen with any of these before. And it is another quick release plate that has a separate panorama head on it. And utilizing that and then the pano on the head itself allowed me to do really smooth panoramic moves, even like circular shots, as you can see here. Not maybe practical in all situations, but the ability to do those smooth pans is something that is superior to pretty much any of these other travel tripods that I have used. So that is something I do give it high marks for. So that was one of the things actually that I did test. I was interested in having these accessories and seeing how they would play out. And so I did find that I could get really smooth pans as a part of that. So that was certainly an area where it passed the test when it came to that. Another one of the things I like to test with these tripods is the ARCA compatibility of these heads. And that includes a number of things. Are they going to be compatible with, for example, quick release plates from other brands? Or maybe ARCA compatible tripod feet on lenses? And so what I found is that it's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to that. It's obviously clearly designed to work with Peak Design plates, which is good for me because I have those mounted on the bottom of all my cameras. And so I could go on to that, no problem, using Peak Design quick release plates. Some of the other brand quick release plates that are more similar, I could also use without issue. Where I did run into an issue is when it came to ARCA compatible feet on, say, this new Sigma 15 millimeter fisheye lens that I just reviewed. I found that when I put it on there, while I could get it in, it wouldn't lock down properly. And so as a byproduct, there was still some movement back and forth. If I had tried to switch into a vertical mode using just that tripod foot, very likely the lens could have slipped out and that would have been a major problem. So you're going to want to be careful in what you try to put on there. It is ARCA compatible, but not fully ARCA compatible. It's kind of hit or miss depending on the design. One of the other things that I like to evaluate is the distance between the actual legs at its full extended out but normal position, not trying to ratchet the legs out further, because that has a lot to do with how stable the base is going to be for supporting gear. So I found that as I'm measuring between those, I could get a little over 32 inches between the legs, which was actually a little bit wider than what a lot of the competitors are. I've done this test with a lot of different tripods. The best in the travel tripod class continues to be Peak Design's travel tripod. It's 37 inches, so that's a significant amount larger and thus a more stable base. But compared to a lot of, Peak Design representing one of the most expensive in the class. So compared to a lot of others, this actually did fairly well in that regard. I also did various tests with that phone holder. I found that it did work well. And of course, once you have it mounted on there, the ability to use the ball head to put it in whatever position that you want was useful. You could also utilize, obviously not the separate quick release plate, but this still does have a smooth panning action, and you could do that, though the weight is a little bit heavier. So you could do a panning with the foam, but I actually really like the addition of that other quick release plate because it's just a little bit smoother in its operation, a little less resistance for that. And then I just used it in general. I've used it for about a month for filming episodes, for doing photography work, and frankly, in all of those things, it works just fine, with the exception of the fact that it didn't always work with all of the ARCA accessories that I was working with. And so I actually, during this time, I tried to use it on 2 different Sigma lenses that I was reviewing, both of which had a tripod collar and foot. And as for the reasons I've already mentioned, it didn't work quite well for that. So let's talk about some things I like and some things I don't like, starting with things that I like. Obviously, price is really attractive here. Carbon fiber travel tripods can cost easily 2 to 4 times more than this, and so this feels like a really solid value for what you get. I also noted that it feels very sturdy and stable, particularly if you're just using, it's a 5-leg extension. And so if you're just using, you can get up to a really nice height already, a very usable height. And I found that at that point, it was really, really stable. Now, if you extend up the center column, you introduce a lot less stability. And it's not bad, for what happens when you extend a slender center column instead of that solid base. But I certainly preferred it without the center column extended, and certainly even if it's extended a little bit and not to its full height. That's true for all of these. It also has a surprising number of accessories included for being a very reasonably priced tripod. So that's obviously a bonus. You're getting, I think, a lot for your money here. I also really liked that panning quick release plate. It's something new that I've not seen before. I've actually found it more useful than what I anticipated, and found it to be something that I can reach for. And of course, obviously with this design, it's something that you could use on multiple tripods as well. And so that was a useful accessory included. I also found that the design around it not just being an adapter to put a phone on, but also to be able to use it as a grip. I really like its actual use. I do wish, in some cases, the phone holder is integrated into the design in some way. Peak Design designs it to where it slides up the center column. Heipi designs it to where it actually pulls out of the base of the head there. I find those to be easy because you don't have to go and find an accessory. They're built in, they're right there. And so you always have them with you. And so I would have preferred it to be integrated into the design some, but I do think it is the actual accessory itself is really well designed and implemented. It even has a cold shoe on it if you want to do further expansion. So I do appreciate the inclusion of this. While it may seem to be kind of counterintuitive for this company to integrate so well with Peak Design, as a Peak Design user, I do appreciate that. And I appreciate that compatibility across the board. It means that I'm not having to try to find, for example, another, to either swap out a, Peak Design quick release plate to go on this, or if I'm using the quick release plate from this, I don't have to worry about it not fitting into my capture clip or something like that. So I do appreciate that integration. I also felt like the ball head for a travel tripod actually felt more robust and better executed than a lot of these that I've used. The materials here are nice. It's clearly aluminum all throughout this. And then of course, going into the carbon fiber for the legs themselves. Everything seems to be quite nicely engineered. And so that's fairly surprising at this price point. I also really like the design for the ratcheting of the legs. This can be something that's a bit of a pain on some designs, but this integration is really well executed. And so it's very quick, very intuitive to get at, and it is something that I really liked. Now, ironically, I love the ratcheting of the legs, but my least favorite thing about the design is actually the leg locks. Out of the box, they're extremely stiff. There's a lot of pressure that's there, but the problem is that there is actually no adjustment place on them. And so my concern is that over the process of time, that these, for one thing, this is basically the only plastic thing that I can find here. And so the fact that I think these are potential break points, but also as they start to invariably loosen up over time, which I think they will do, the fact that there isn't really an adjustment point means that you can't retighten them, nor at this stage could you loosen them a little bit to make there to be a little bit less resistance. I've found them to be a little bit uncomfortable. I just did a polar plunge and I got a little bit of frostbite in the tips of my fingers. So my tips of my fingers are a little bit sensitive right now. And I did not enjoy pulling at these with my fingertips at the moment because that resistance is a little on the heavy side. Another thing that I didn't love is that while it does fold up, nice and compact, it's not as compact as competing tripods. And so at its, minimum size, it is still over 19 inches long. And so that compares to like the most compact I recently reviewed, Freewell's travel tripod. It gets down under 17 inches. The Heipi is 17.7 inches. And of course, the winner in this class is Peak Design's carbon fiber tripod, and it gets down as small as 15.4 inches. So you're talking about 4 inches longer for this as opposed to the winner in the class, which is the Peak Design. And so again, useful, but it may stick up. Those extra few inches means that if I'm putting it in my backpack, for example, it's going to stick up a little bit higher than what some competing ones might. The other thing that I'm a little bit critical of is the fact that, yes, you can remove the center column quite easily. You just screw off the area where you hang your backpack from, this hook down here. And if you unscrew that, it allows you to then loosen the center column and to pull it right out. And so obviously you could invert that for shooting in a underneath position. And you can also swap out to the short center column and so that you can get low down work. The problem is that you do have to utilize an Allen key to loosen off the ball head. And so it's not a toolless operation to do that. So it takes a little bit longer to do that swap, maybe than what I would like. The other thing that I don't like is something I've already alluded to, and that is that I think there's more ARCA-related issues than what I have typically found with these travel tripods. Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of range of adjustment in the actual quick release mechanism. And so you basically need to be this width. There's no ability to tighten or loosen. It's going to work within a very preset. And I do like the locking mechanism. I like it when you're using a compatible quick release plate, it's great. But the fact that it's not as versatile means that in some situations, I'm not going to be able to use it with everything. So what's my conclusion? I actually think this is a really nicely made travel tripod outside of the leg lock mechanism, which I am not a fan of. At the same time, I will also freely admit there isn't really any killer app. I think that a lot of these that I've reviewed in recent years, there's something about them that makes them really stand out. You know, they're either really, really small or there's some really clever feature that's integrated in them. This basically has a lot of the features that other travel tripods have, but it doesn't have anything that I would point to say that's really unique to this. This is the lone reason why you should buy it. So what is the most compelling reason to buy this? I think the actual answer is probably the price. This is a really strong value, and you're going to be able to get into a carbon fiber travel tripod, which means you're traveling lighter, and carbon fiber is nice and stable when it comes to reducing vibration. That's great, but your main reason to get in this is the fact that it is cheaper. I think that in many ways it mirrors a lot of the compelling aspects of Peak Design's approach to travel tripod, but at a much lower price point. It's not as good, don't get me wrong. It's not as good as Peak Design, although there are a few areas where I really like it. Like when it comes to the execution of the ball head, it's not as short as what Peak Designs is, but it is a more functional ball head than what Peak Designs is. I'm actually filming with the Peak Design travel tripod right now. So if you're on a limited budget, I don't know that I have used anything that costs less than this that has as much function and value as what this does. So this really does hit a sweet spot of the combination of price point and then the function and the performance of design. And if that works for you, then the Neewer LiteTrip 35 is probably a really interesting option for you to consider in a travel tripod. I'm Dustin Abbott, and if you look in the description down below, you can find linkage there to a text review. There's some buying links there. And of course, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and let the light in.